Briefing on SpaceX. The IPO is tomorrow, Friday. Massive, one of the biggest in human history, largest. And I'll tell you why I'm not participating, what I plan on doing, and when I most likely will get in. Extremely bullish overall, with record-breaking IPO demand from both retail and institutional investors, though tempered by skepticism over the company's large losses and high valuation. Top story: the strong retail appetite creates an opening for financial innovation in space-themed investments and index products. The company's $4.3 billion quarterly loss could load to post-IPO volatility if profitability timelines disappoint and the S&P 500 exclusion limits passive demand. Monitor first day trading volume and price action closely. Consider adding exposure if the stock dips below the IPO price, but hedge against valuation risk given the loss profile. Top headlines: SpaceX raises $75 billion in largest IPO ever, valuation at $1.77 trillion. The IPO marks a historic shift for SpaceX from a private company to a public entity. The massive valuation underscores investor confidence in the company's future, particularly in satellite, internet, and space exploration. SpaceX IPO draws over $100 billion in retail investor orders. The overwhelming retail interest indicates strong public enthusiasm for SpaceX. However, the company has cut the retail allocation to the low 20% range, likely prioritizing institutional investors and managing demand. Prediction markets say SpaceX will close above $2 trillion. This suggests that many market participants expect a significant first-day pop, potentially mirroring the hype around other high-profile tech IPOs. If realized, it would make SpaceX one of the most valuable companies in the world. BlackRock orders at least $5 billion in SpaceX IPO shares. The involvement of the world's largest asset manager adds further credibility to SpaceX valuation. It signals that major institutional investors see long-term value in the company, potentially driving sustained interest post-IPO. S&P 500 blocks fast entry for SpaceX, OpenAI, and Anthropic. This decision means SpaceX shares won't automatically attract passive investment inflows from index funds. It could dampen some short-term demand, but also reflects the index traditional eligibility rules. And now comes some of the unpopular opinions. Take it with a grain of salt, but I believe they make sense, so I'm presenting them to you in no particular order. This is absolutely insane. The SpaceX IPO has now drawn more than $70 billion worth of retail orders alone. SpaceX is raising $75 billion, making retail interest alone enough to nearly fill the entire sale. To put this into perspective, the previous record IPO was Saudi Aramco in 2020 at $29.4 billion. This means that retail interest in SpaceX is now 2.4 times larger than the total amount raised in the previous largest IPO in history. As a result, SpaceX has announced that 20% of their IPO will be allocated to retail investors, following through on Elon Musk's vision to democratize the record IPO. Nothing even remotely near what SpaceX is about to do has ever happened. Friday will be a historic day. NVIDIA CEO compares SpaceX, OpenAI, Anthropic IPOs to early Amazon and Google. Huang made the comment during a live interview in Santa Clara, California, as SpaceX prepares for a potential June 20 NASDAQ debut under ticker SPCX at $135 per share, aiming for a $1.75 trillion to $1.8 trillion valuation and $75 billion raise after $18.7 billion in 2025 revenue. And it gets a little crazier from here. This market is toast. Anna Watts, a 33-year-old public relations manager in New York, has stashed away $6,500 to buy SpaceX stock after it hits the market Friday. If she had her way, she'd buy even more. She tried to borrow $5,000 from her best friend and applied for a bank loan too, but both turned her away. And this is my comment. They are literally selling everything in the stock market, besides being margin called, including gold, silver, just to catch the IPO. Retail is even taking out loans from banks and friends to get into this IPO. What are the chances they lose both ways? This is really bad. SpaceX starts trading this Friday. Here's what history says happens next. This is the post-IPO performance of every major tech listing of the last decade. Every name you know, every name you use. Look at the last column, maximum drawdown in 1 year. Facebook, down 54% after IPO. Snapchat, down 56%. Uber, down 68%. Pinterest, down 70%. Lyft, 79%. Rivian, 88%. Robinhood, 90%. Median first-year drawdown across the entire list, 54%. Average, 55% after the IPO. Not the speculative junk, the whole class, including the eventual winners. Zoom eventually rose 142% in year one. It still drew down 40% along the way. Palantir gained 153%. It still fell 53% at one point. CrowdStrike, Datadog, MongoDB all ended year one higher. All put their holders through a 40 to 67% drawdown first. There has not been a single major tech IPO in a decade that didn't hand you a brutal drawdown in the first 12 months. Not one. Now SpaceX joins the list at the richest valuation in IPO history. You don't have to buy today. The IPO is a seller's moment, not the buyer's. Wait for the base. And that's a list of all the companies that went public, including Shopify, Block, Twilio, Snap, and you can see the drawdown. All of them, I don't see an exception. And now, since I told you, I'll definitely watch from the sideline. I'm not getting in this IPO. It just reminds me of good old crypto IDOs, where people used to take all the money from all the other crypto coins and dump into this so-called IDOs, and pretty much the same thing happened. The insiders sold because they got in early, and the retail were holding bags, and crypto is a different ballgame. However, SpaceX makes sense. Backed by Elon Musk, has massive following. So if I decide to get in personally, I probably will. I'll wait 1 year, 6 months to 12 months or so. Why, you may ask? Well, I'll buy SpaceX after 12 months. SpaceX IPO. Day one, retail buys, and then you have the capitalization, retail sellout. I'm not saying this is exactly what's going to happen, but if you again pay attention to all the previous IPOs, institutions buy, again, see that? 1 to 12 month period, and then retail buys in. So if you can catch when the institution starts buying, the bottom, that's the best entry. I plan to skip the IPO, let the hype settle, wait for the price to hit reality, buy when the risk reward improves, I rather say. I approve this post. And before I end, quick and a very important update. I tweaked the mission of this channel a bit so I can cater to wider audience and provide, or I rather say add more value through my videos. So instead of doing a video every single day, I plan on doing a deep dive once or maybe twice, but mostly once a week. If you have any questions, put them all in the comments and I'll try to cover all of them if it makes sense in that particular video. So if you like what you see, subscribe and let me know what's your plan on these 3 IPOs that's actually coming up. Have a good rest of the evening and I shall see you in the next one. Bye for now.